Hey everyone, Tactics here with yet another video in my advanced routing kind of walkthrough series for Shadowlands Season 4, and in this video we're going to be covering Grimrail Depot. Now in terms of routing, there's not too much creativity on the table here, but there is a little bit of like some tricks you can do to kind of do these pulls, and the order you kind of do these pulls and how you pull them is something that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with. So hopefully you're going to learn something from this video, at least in that sense. I'm going to walk you through the MDT first. I'll link that down below in the description if you guys want that for yourselves. And then I'll walk you through one of our videos using the route and kind of talk you through all of the pulls. Remember though, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I've got this for every single Season 4 dungeon, almost so far, on my channel. And of course, I'm doing it for Dragonflight and beyond. So make sure you turn on notifications to not miss a video. And let's look here. So first, right off the top here, we are actually invising, shrouding, whatever, 2 Zolgamuks, pulling Zolgamuks through the wall. If you don't know how to do that, I'll show you how to do that. And we do Lust on this very first pull with Zolgamuks, get it on CD. And then we kind of back pull these mobs here just before this first boss. Going into the first boss, then we run up, do the 2 bombardiers, pulling the train. I'll show you how to actually pull this pack without pulling the Hulk, which is pretty useful. We double pull without the Hulk, and this is our second Bloodlust here. And we do the Hulk with this pack here. The second boss. Moving forward, we do a single Farseer, and then we do the rest of the platform just to make it a bit safer. You can, if you're pushed for time, do all this together. It's just a bit more dangerous. And then you have the last boss. So very, very straightforward route, right? It's a train, it's a straight line. There's not really much you can avoid or skip. But let me show you and walk you through some of the pulls because it can get a little bit interesting. So there it is. So right off the top, again, we're skipping all the way to the boss here, and what you're actually going to see before we do anything is the rogue is actually also going to go and reset the boss. Now Hunter can do this as well, Mage can probably do it as well. He's just going to go tag the boss and vanish, and why we do that is because if you don't reset this boss, the boss will kind of pat around the room, including into this back area down here where we want to be tanking Zolgamuks. However, if you reset the boss, they stand still and they never move. So first thing is we come in and the boss gets reset. Then we pull those mobs here. 1 Overseer, Technician, Infiltrator, and see the Priest is over here. Basically, there's a spot here, especially if you're tall. If you're a short character, I'm a Goblin. I can jump over here and still tag them with an ability. It's a little harder, but if you're a regular tall character, you can pretty just run to this wall and tag because the wall's just not real. So he tags both Zolgamuks and the Infiltrator down there. Pull them together. This is Lust, all CDs, and we're just blasting here. One thing to note, this Overseer has a non-telegraphed frontal cleave. You won't be able, it doesn't have any warning, anything like that. So melee need to be aware of it. The tank needs to be aware of it. See, I'm just pointing this guy into the corner, and it's a convenient spot where the dash actually doesn't move him at all. Which is nice, and then the melee have some space to avoid these cones back and forth, and then dodge out. In this case, I have to dodge out, so I just warn the melee, hey, I gotta move out. The guy charges out, I go back into my corner. That guy is not cleaving anybody but me. Aside from that, once we actually start getting Zolgamuks low and all this trash has died, I believe we chain Zolgamuks into the next Overseer. Just because, why not? 2 target cleave. If we can do it, not a big deal, because there is one more that pats around in this area. So like we're starting to move over here now. He's on a far pat, so I'll just bring him this way and wait a little bit, and then once he starts getting closer, I'll actually tag him in as well and cleave him with Zolgamuks. Again, same deal. He has that frontal line charge, and he also has that frontal cone attack that you want to be aware of. You don't want to murder your melee. They're just trying to position it decently that everyone is kind of safe there. Once Zolgamuk actually dies, you're going to see us kind of move and pick up the next pack here. So he charges, and we're now moving and picking up the rest of the pack. So it's just this pack right here, this 3-pack, and you're going to see the Priest also run across. He's going to go pick up the single Infiltrator that's in the back corner where you come in. And he can just fade and tag it, or mine through the mob if it's like in a really bad spot, and fade and then tag it, and then run back over here. And you're going to see it's just going to kind of run in. Now, the big thing to notice here is this technician. So we actually don't quite get far enough away. This technician, if you don't get far enough away, will start trying to run to an iron star. See, I try and grip it just a second too late. He started his run, and no matter what, if he starts his run, he's going to finish his run unless you interrupt his cast at the end of it. So now he's going to go run to this iron star, which is a little bit awkward. If you get out to this spot, this technician will not run to any iron stars. None. So you're going to see the monk, I think, is going to go babysit him and interrupt it with like a ring of peace, because that's a very spooky one. And then we're going to run back, and I'm going to get him out here, and you're going to see he's never going to run to an iron star again, because he's now, quote-unquote, out of range of the iron stars. So that's how you would handle this technician. If you went a little bit faster, he would not have ran to that iron star. Unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. We were prepared in case something bad happened. But yeah, we're just finishing off these infiltrators here, and then we're going into the boss. Oh, we have some data front, yeah. Going in the boss here, and now how we handle this boss is that there's mainly one really bad overlap, which is actually in the first series of these bombs. So in the first series of these bombs, Borka does a smash in the middle of the bombs. So here is where you're going to see all our major defensives committed. Turtle, him is already going in preparation to full heal everyone right after the slam. I believe Rogue also cloaks, yeah. And yeah, there was like a pre-flesh and a fort brew, I believe, yeah. So all those defensives were committed just for this one overlap. And like normally, like you see me talk a lot about staggering defensive CDs. The thing with this fight though is that like there is quite literally one insanely difficult overlap in this one right at the beginning of the fight that you just want to sack everything so that you don't get one shot. If you're able to live through this, the fight is much easier after this. It's still rough in these flame overlaps, but then that's how we're going to deal with that is actually hard focusing Railmaster Rocket Spark. You actually don't really care about Borka the Brute, and if you saw here on pull, right, all the CDs just got popped for this damage amp phase on Railmaster. They're doing as much damage as they possibly can, and they're going to follow Railmaster. Like no one is on Borka but me, since Borka is the one you have to tank. I just kind of over here. When the boss jumps to my half of the room, I'll go for cleave. Boss jumps away. I'm not going to run all the way across the room. It's really not worth it. Only when it's just the fire stuff. But here, this one, the overlap on the second one is just to get healed up in time, because he slams right before the fire instead of in the middle of the fire. But you have a little bit of time, so it's easier to deal with than that first overlap, which is right in the middle of the fire. And for those that don't know, the way these fire rockets work is that every second it deals ticking damage to 2 random players. So you can just kind of get bad RNG and get like the same person hit over and over and over and over again. But it's unlikely, but I mean, that's how these fire rockets work. It's not 5-man damage. It hits 2 people at a time per second. Basically, this whole point now is that everyone is just hard focusing Railmaster Rocket Spark to push her below 20% HP. Once they're below 20%, they no longer jump up onto these boxes and do that fire rocket ability, and therefore the fight is significantly easier because the only actual unavoidable damage is the slam damage, which doesn't quite one-shot you, so you're fine, assuming you dodge all these swirlies. So this entire time, DPS are full on Railmaster Rocket Spark until they're low enough, which is sub 20%, which I believe we're probably going to get after this hit. I believe is the ideal scenario. We might not actually make it, but I think we do. Yeah, I think we do make it here. Yeah. And so once that happens, you're going to see a full swap from Railmaster to Borka. So everyone is going to be hitting Borka as of now. I'm actually going to even pull Borka away, and we're just going to be hitting Borka for a while. And I mean, that is essentially this fight. The jump up never happens anymore. He's just going to jump around back and forth and back and forth. So literally just hitting Borka. That is the rest of this fight. The faster you push Railmaster, the less likely you are to have deaths, because the less kind of fire random damage hits you have to deal with. So once this happens, like once we start getting Borka a little bit lower, you're going to see I'm going to start using Borka for cleave again when Railmaster jumps to our half of the room. I'm using them for cleave now just because I'm a little lower. But otherwise, I don't follow Railmaster again. It's just not really worth all the movement because the jumps are so quick. And then once we get this guy low enough, we're going to start split our damage a little bit. We send 1 DPS to finish off Railmaster. And the big thing here is that you never want to kill Railmaster first if Borka's about to slam, because the Raging Slam will just one-shot your entire party. You really want to kill them as close together as possible. Railmaster, though, if you kill Borka too early, we'll just start one-shotting people one at a time, which is probably better, but still not ideal. So ideally they're killed at the same time, or very close to the same time, or you kill Railmaster just before Borka, but right after a slam kind of deal. But same time as you can is as good as the best thing. Once these guys die, though, we run up here to these bomber guys, waiting for these things to go. I probably run a little bit too far. They did fix them like ferventing, so they're not gonna like hit the closest person anymore, but he just like stops and starts casting bombs, so you kind of have to run with that first guy, unlike what I did. But from here we put a skull and we single target down one of them just to make these bleed stacks a little bit easier to deal with. It's not too bad. It starts getting scary near the end, but it's not the worst, especially on Tyrannical. It's a little rougher on Fortified, that's for sure. But yeah, it's this stacking bleed here that you're really worried about. This, because it amps the damage of this other bleed, and of course when there's two of them, you get a lot of stacks. So you really want to hard focus one of those guys. And then we have the first pack in the train. So these next couple packs are pretty straightforward, right? I'm just tanking them in a corner, pointing the gunner in the corner, sidestepping the gunner every time the rocket barrage, whatever it's called, shrapnel blast gets cast, just so I don't take any unnecessary damage. Because if you sit in that, like, it's probably livable for a little while, but it definitely does not tickle. It hurts a fair bit, even on Tyrannical. So try and avoid it, point it away from people. Fairly straightforward. Next pack here has a Cinder Seer, the only stop really in this entire dungeon. One single cast in the Flame Tongue to stop Flame Tongue, and you never have to move this pack because that fire circle never goes down. The scary guys here are actually the Grenadiers, though, because those grenades, they do a knock and an AoE, and that's why you see like the DPS is kind of spread out around the boss here. And when these guys are actually raging, they deal a ton of damage. You just want to be careful for that. And then we're going to come into the pull where we double pull without the big Goliath guy. So basically how that works is literally just speed. So let me see if I can turn around here. So you can see in these packs, this is the front pack, this is the back pack. The Goliath is currently not in this backpack. He actually runs up and RPs. So what you can do is if you run in fast enough, you can actually tag one of these mobs and they'll run in, and then the brute, whatever his name is, will still be doing his RP and he won't actually aggro into the pack. You're just going to see here, I'm going to run in, tap everything. Again, I run through the pack immediately as you saw there. Let me rewind again. So I'm not going to aggro the pack early. If I tag this pack early, one thing note, because there is one of those gunner guys in this pack, he'll shoot the flames right at this entrance, which is not ideal. So you can see I wait until here. I run through the pack, tag this far pack, and pull them back into this corner that we just came in to aim the rest of the shrapnel blasts. We lust this pull, of course, as well. CD's running, and just aiming these shrapnel blasts kind of into this corner here, away from everyone else, stepping back in and out basically as these shrapnel blasts are cast. And I have a notification to basically tell me when they're being cast. And of course, we do not want to stagger them, right? So we don't use single target stuns on this pack. We only use AoE stuns so that these shrapnel blasts are never desynced. We want them synced so that I can dodge both of them and put them both in the same spot, kind of deal. By this point, I think they're all dead, and then we're just killing the rest of the pack here. And then we're going to be moving on to the next pack, which now has that brute in it. We're just going to drag that brute into the next pack. So that's how we do this. We use this corner right here to aim all the fire, all the melee, all the DPS, all the DPS in this party are melee. And they know I'm going to be aiming it into that corner. Waiting a second here, and we're going with this brute here. Same deal. There is gunners in this pack. Aim it, dodge, sidestep. Shadow Blast comes out, sidestep, always aiming it towards the same spot, right? As long as you're doing it to one spot, it doesn't really matter where the spot is, as long as you're doing it to like the same relative spot, and your party knows the spot you're doing it to. Because that's the thing, right? This will just like 2-tick, 1-tick melee, right? And they'll be dead. So be careful where you're positioning it, but as long as it's known, you're good. And then we come into the second boss here, where you have a bit of time where you're fighting the boss himself initially. You want to be spread out along this room so you don't cleave the grenade bombs. So you're going to see we're going to all be spread out here. We're basically like, yeah, we're all spread out in this room. But aside from these grenade bombs, there's not really much happening here. You just kind of hit the boss, get almost one shot every time they go out, and then nothing else really happens. You know, fast forward, fast forward, fast forward. All right, is this the one where we lose the boomer? I'm actually not sure. So what can happen? Just sometimes, like in the middle of this train, like you'll just lose a guy. We'll see if it happens. So, the big thing here. Oh yeah, there's. That's what I'm talking. So like that can happen. Luckily, that happened to a guy that doesn't matter. It's just a regular infiltrator. He's gone. He's just gone. But that has happened to a boomer and a gunner. If that happens, you just have to go like an extra wave, I guess. Especially if you lose a boomer. We lost a boomer one time. It was very bad. So be aware that can happen. I try and take it right here so that DPS can still hit it. It's a little weird with melee. But range certainly can easily still hit these this pack here if you're tanking here while LOSing the boss there. And we're just grouping them up. We do use some of the shrapnel blast here, not on the boss, actually to kill trash. So you're gonna see like once we actually get the shrapnel blast, the healer grabs it, and he's gonna finish off this pack for us real quick with a couple shots. And then we're just gonna be waiting for the next set to spawn. And same deal. This is double boomer. Bring him over here. Kind of AoE him down. Puts a few shots into him. And this is because we're going to actually do a bit of a delay. So these boomers here would trigger the boss if we chose to hit the boss. Except we're not choosing to instantly hit the boss. What we're choosing to do instead is wait a second here. We're waiting for the next spawn of gunners to give us more ammo. So these gunners spawn. Now we're like, okay, we can push the boss now. I'm going to get these gunners grouped up. They're going to get shot down. Boss is going to be pushed. We have a bunch of ammo now. Waiting for the last shot to go. There it is. And now I tank him right between these two guns. And we have a bunch of ammo going. And the boss just gets absolutely wrecked by the ammo. One thing to note is I think we did waste some ammo. I think the priest was saying he picked up ammo. Well, he already had ammo early on. So we actually lost a few shots, which is why this boss is going to live a little bit longer. I think we're going to run out of ammo here. But normally we'd have like 3 more shots, I think, of ammo. And yeah, boss would be basically dead from that. We have to do a little bit of damage to the boss here, which is not the end of the world. But that's how we handle this boss. So we get those boomers that would unlock the boss. And know that you do have to hit let me rewind a bit, but you do actually have to hit the cannon a little bit. Let me try and rewind at the beginning of this phase. Yeah, you see it. Like they go and they hit the cannon a little bit. You don't need to do too much, and you can like do like a grenade hit and a little bit as well. A grenade hit wasn't quite enough, I don't think. You need a grenade hit in a little bit to push him, but like just like a couple seconds right at the start, everyone goes, hits that cannon a little bit, and that gives it enough damage, because 3 hits from these mortars or whatever they are aren't quite enough to actually knock the boss out. But anyways, we go on. So Dealing with this fire, if you're really fast, you can go. Otherwise, when both sides get fired right away, it'll always fire the right side here, so everyone can just run left. Here we are doing the solo farce here because we have tons of time. This just makes this pull way safer. Everyone is stacking up here. Kick storm shoots, of course, still only kicked. As soon as this ability Thunder Zone is cast, everyone moves because it locks its position when it starts casting. So you know it's all going to be here. You can fully avoid the damage. So the whole party is just stacked up here. As soon as the Thunder Zone goes out, we all move, etc. Again, you can pull this guy with this group as long as you assign another couple kicks to this guy. Just be aware. It makes the pull a bit more difficult because you have 2 Thunder Zones going out instead of just 1. And then when you go in, pull literally everything else on the platform. Again, kicks on the Thunder Shield for the farce here. These purple swirlies are fake. They don't scale. They don't do damage. So, you know, you don't really have to dodge them. The captain you do need to dodge. You're going to see here, Reckless Slash on this captain's going to come out in a second. And the melee all back away. Because it's a cleave in a circle. It's a circle cleave. So just be aware of that. That's like the main thing. This Thunder Zone's going to go out. You want to avoid it. And then it's just melee backing up, see there, for the Reckless Slash. And that's what you need to worry about in this pull. So it's not too much, even though there's a ton of mobs. They basically, like, the vast majority of them do nothing and get cleaved down in like 10 seconds, as you saw. Like, the giant pile of bodies there. Yeah, so just kick the farce here. Watch the Thunder Zones. Run out for the Captain's Reckless Slash. And then, of course, the Infiltrator stuff. Just avoid that. But then you have the very fun last boss. So, this is a pretty long boss fight. It's definitely tough, especially for melee. But I'll try and walk you guys through it. So initially, we are going to use Lust on our second set of 2-minute CDs. Why we do that is because the frequency and the number of like these like flame breath casts in terms of like the puddles on the ground increases as the boss loses health. So you always want to lust late on this boss. Lusting on pull is always a mistake on this boss. You do not want to do that. You always want to lust late. So for us, we have our 2 minutes coming up in about 20 seconds here, as you can see from my CD tracker. So we're going to pop those 2 minutes when we get them. And then when our lust comes back up, or sorry, when those CDs comes back up, that's when we're going to pop Bloodlust with them. Now, as an aside for DK stuff, I'm actually going to gavel on pull here because I have it, and that will actually probably give me a second gavel. So that's why I gavel on pull instead of with Bloodlust. But yeah, that is our plan for Bloodlust here. Second set of 2 minutes. And you're going to see here, melee are going to try and stay together as much as possible. These spears that get thrown are always targeted at a melee, so we try not to throw that at our ranged. These traps are full random, so they can go on literally anybody. You just need to make sure you don't touch them, and note that if anyone does touch them, it's like an 8-yard or something splash, so it's very, very large, the splash zone. And they despawn quite quickly now, like every 3rd trap. The first one will despawn on the 4th spawn, if that makes sense. Like this 3rd one will spawn, and then this one will despawn pretty soon, I believe, by the time this next snare spawns. Let's see if I'm completely lying. Yeah, before the 4th snare spawns, the first one would despawn. So that's how they work. They despawn relatively quickly. There are some situations where you may want to soak one. I AMZ for no reason. There are some situations where you may want to soak one, and you can do that with like AMS and Freedom, but again, be aware of that splash damage. Otherwise, you see, like this fight is ramping up. You see those hits. You really do need to dodge those swirlies, right? Those swirlies will give you that really nasty dot. That big hit is completely unavoidable. Nothing you can do about that, but it's not quite one-shotting us, so it's fine. As long as you don't take any other damage. It's very similar to the first boss, right? Like the slams, they're not quite going to one-shot you, but taking additional damage during the slams or shortly after the slams will kill you. So it's mostly about dodging these lightning zones or popping a major CD and running through the lightning zone. So that's what CDs are for. You don't really CD these breaths because you're going to live. I see here we kind of get separated a little bit here. And he jumps through after he's already been fully healed up, and that it's a relatively short dot at least. Yeah, jumping all the way through here. We get very separated here. The key thing is here, like, watch your health. Do not do any weird things unless you're very healthy, especially immediately after that breath. Get to safety first. Worry about boss uptime second. Is for sure the main thing to do here. And what you can do is, like, you can see here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 open available spots here that we can move to, and I'm kind of standing in the middle of said location so that we have a lot of options in case we get a really bad lightning wave. We have 5 easily accessible platforms here. When this lightning breath goes out, it goes out. 1, 2, 3 of them were covered, so now we have this spot here and this spot here we can move into immediately. Not to mention that this spot that was covered with lightning is despawning. But that's kind of how you want to position this boss, is you want to give yourself the most avenues to escape when that thunder breath goes out, and you want to try and bait good traps. Like, that was a really good bait on that trap there. And so now here again, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 lanes to escape into that are very easily accessible, and that's why I'm taking the boss here. 4 of those get covered, right? Like, that's why you want as many options as possible. 4 of our free lanes got covered in lightning, and now we literally have 1. You can see, I think, yeah, we get lucky here. We should have all baited backwards, get that trap guaranteed in the corner, because if it got baited here, it would be rough. When we all for the commit to, like, pop a defensive and run through, because, like, there's nothing, like, we're stuck in the corner, right? Like, you have to get out. So we get turtle. I think the monk didn't have anything left, so he just had to kind of die. And I think rogue cloaked, all those kinds of things. And you're probably gonna die on this fight. It is very rough. And 3 open spots here. We're starting to get these ones despawned, so we're kind of chilling in this area. We have a lot of open spots here. We have to watch this trap because it's very close. But we have a bunch of open spots in the front of the train here. End up having to go through. I run through the lightning. I probably shouldn't have, but I am a blood DK, so it doesn't really matter. But as a DPSer or other tanks, you probably shouldn't do that. At this point, I probably should move the boss, like, towards here. Yeah. Give us more space, and we have literally 1 spot again. And I think this is where we get screwed right at the end of the fight, because again, it ramps up in, like, the frequency and, like, how many of these drop, or not the frequency of the ability, sorry, this is how many of these drop. Ramps up based on boss health. So this is going to be the roughest one. I think we end up just committing on the boss kill and, like, having a bunch of people die at the end, but yeah, like, literally this entire area is just covered with lightning. I was like, okay. Luckily, boss is low enough, though, that we're just able to kill. We get out of this spot, kill. And there it is. So, yeah, pretty simple key. Not too much going on in it, but just kind of, like, the pull cadence and, like, how you group packs together is where, like, the complexity of this dungeon comes. Hopefully, you guys learned something from this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below, or come stop by my Twitch channel at Tactics. I'll do my best to answer. Otherwise, though, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.